Well, relationship ruts are certainly common in long-term unions, but there's no reason to throw in the towel. In fact, we want people to stay committed. And here with some suggestions to help couples reconnect is relationship consultant Barbara Singer. We are so happy to have you back. It's been a while, and I'm glad that you've returned.
Well, so am I. It's nice to see you guys again.
It's nice to see you.
A little warmer this time.
Certainly warmer. But this is a topic that really heats up conversation, certainly. And I think the first question would be, how do we actually identify a rut?
Well, I think that the way we identify a rut is just by looking at our relationship as a whole. Are we bored? Are we doing the same old, same old? Are we always having the same conversations? Are we always having the same argument? You know, is it always about the kids and never about, you know, us?
Right, and repeating, and it's funny you said the same arguments, because I think one of the biggest problems is repeating the same behavior and not learning from the fight, but actually just going back to it again and keep revisiting the same thing. So what steps can we take to get out of these ruts and just bring some life back to our relationships?
Well, I think that what we have to do is kind of start at the beginning, you know. Go back to where we were, you know, when you first met and things were all rosy, you know, and kind of go back and, you know, remember when you used to hold hands, and, you know, remember when you walked by each other and you would, you know, touch each other on the back. You know, remember what it was like before kids, and you were spending a little bit more time, you know, together. And I think that we lose that as time goes on.
Certainly, and I would imagine especially with kids. But what about if you don't have kids? I mean, and you're just getting into those ruts as you're becoming settled into your relationship. You know, maybe in the beginning stages you're getting settled in, or you just got married and now you're, okay, now what? You know, we've passed the butterfly stage. So now what? How do we get out of that rut? What do we do in those situations?
Well, in those situations, you know, I think it's important to do something different. You know, here we are, you know, in Albuquerque we have the magazines, and I live in Santa Fe, and up on Fridays we have a magazine, like a little weekend, you know, what to do this weekend. And so I think it's really important just to flip through the magazine and kind of, you know, point and go, okay, hey, we're going to go to this art opening, or, you know, we're going to go to the zoo. Hey, the zoo's having a deal or whatever. You know, and that kind of stuff. And I think that it's important to just go.
Just kind of find activities.
And if you don't like it, it's okay. But at least you've done something different than going to the same old place for dinner every Saturday.
Or watching TV and getting stuck in the remote rut. Because that's a big thing. And I want to ask you this, because I know it's fairly unrealistic to assume we'll never argue with our partners, but there's got to be a way to argue better, so we don't do what I was just saying before, which is repeating those same arguments. Is there a way to fight fair and argue better?
Yes, I think so. The way to fight fair and to argue better is to use I statements and to talk to each other about, you know, hey, this is how I feel about this. Or, you know, let's just agree to disagree on this point. We'll try and do something different so that we aren't fighting about the same thing over and over again. And also it's important to stick with what the problem is today. You know, not bringing up 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 2 years ago, you know, and just kind of staying where you are today and saying, hey, how can we do something different? How can we compromise?
That is actually a danger, I think, of bringing up past mistakes. I think bringing up the good things of the past only helps the relationship, but when you bring the bad things from the past, you're carrying on something and you're bringing that into your future. So that makes a lot of sense. I want to go back to what you said about agree to disagree, because I've always kind of I've always been on the fence about that statement, because I believe that if you agree to disagree, you know, you kind of resolve it in the moment. But it is in the moment. How does that solve it for the future?
Well, in agreeing to disagree, I think that you give up the power of your relationship argument. Like, you don't win, you know, and so if you just kind of agree to disagree, then everybody can calm down, and it's not a fight. And so when it's not a fight, it's a compromise, and compromise makes everybody feel better. And, you know, hey, when everybody feels better, the relationship is a little bit more settled. And that helps.
That makes a lot of sense to me. Now, what types of routines do we seem to get stuck in the most that cause a lot of problems?
The same, you know, the same Saturday night date, the same conversation, the same argument, the same story about the kids. and even the same sex.
Right. You need to spice it up, huh?
A little bit, yeah.
Well, how can kids be a dilemma in the relationship? Because I know sometimes that's a big issue as well.
Well, you know, kids are great. I mean, kids are, you know, they're great and they're a lot of fun, but sometimes we put the kids first and ignore, you know, each other.
Yes.
Like, for example, if you're a stay-at-home mom, you know, that's what you know, that's where you are.
Right.
And so while you are sitting, you know, that's what you do. So when your significant other comes home, I think it's very important to remember to talk to each other about each other.
I like that.
You know, and not necessarily about the children first.
Okay.
Also, I think it's very important to take some time, you know, to kind of decompress, and then the two of you, you know, go and just have a couple of minutes to talk about, you know, hey, honey, how are you? How was your day? And reconnect a little bit every day.
Well, and you were, of course, talking a little bit about affection. How do we relearn to show affection after time has gone by?
Well, I think we have to be aware that we have lost that affection as well. You know, but simple things just like, you know, walking past your significant other and kind of brushing up against them, or you know, leaving
the power of touch.
Yeah, or leaving a, you know, a sexy little Post-it note on the bathroom mirror, in your own bathroom, or you know, something in a, you know, pack him a lunch and give him a goofy little lunch bag.
That's
note,
cute.
you know, things like that.
Great
that
ideas.
Remind you of where you were, and that, you know, you don't want to lose that.
I love that. And the last question I want to ask you is, if we're kind of in that time period where we're wondering, where are we going with this? How do we differentiate between, you know, a rut or something that actually may be really serious, like depression, or really maybe even a medical condition?
Well, it's very important to talk to each other first, I think, about, you know, gee, honey, do you notice this as well?
Okay.
You know, and if there is a conversation and you start to wonder, you know, things really aren't the same, or, you know, we can't pull it back after we've tried, you know, maybe there is some depression, or maybe there is some concerns about, you know, a medical condition or an unhappiness in a relationship that goes beyond just the rut. And I think that's something that has to be looked at if you can't pull yourselves out of it.
Great advice, really good advice, Barbara. And I want to let everybody know how they can reach you and find you. Let's see, Santa Fe Zen, of course, is the name, and Barbara Zinger is the game. Now, and of course, you can call her at 505, did you like that? 216-6770, Mondays through Fridays, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., and she is located in Santa Fe. You can certainly go to the website for more information on Santa Fe Zen just by going to santafezen.com. And really, you've just provided such great tips, and I hope all those women out there are packing their men some good lunches today with a little cute note. I love it. Thank you so much for coming back. I hope to see you soon. Thank you so much. Great, valuable information. And coming up, Vernon's got some sweets for the sweet. Ooh, maybe for your sweetheart.